Welcome back, Jon Barron.
There was a study that came out recently that's so interesting that has to do with heart disease and mummies. One of the things we know is atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries. It's thought to be a disease of modern human beings. And we tend to say, it's related to contemporary lifestyles. And it was always sort of suspected, it was never proven, it was always suspected that it was much less prevalent in bygone eras. It really is a modern disease. But as I said, that was unproven, and a study was done to resolve the question. The study looked back at atherosclerosis across 4,000 years of human history. And what they did is they examined mummies from 4 different ancient populations. What they found suggests that the hardening of the arteries actually has been around for a long time, stretching back to the dawn of human history at about the same rate that we have now. And then the study's author suggested perhaps we're genetically encoded to have heart disease as we age. So the study itself, as I said, went back and they did CT scans on 137 mummies from 4 different geographical regions covering 4,000 years. They came from ancient Egypt, they came from ancient Peru, the ancestors of the Pueblo Indians of Southwest America, and the Onongan of the Aleutian Islands, who are sort of close cousins of the Inuit who are there now, the Eskimos who are there now. And as it turns out, these ancient people seem not to know how to prevent heart disease. Probable or definite atherosclerosis was noted in 34% of the mummies and in all 4 geographical populations. That's pretty astounding, actually. These people are, dying at the same rate, developing heart disease at the same rate. What is the cause here? What do they share in common with people who live today? Let's talk about some of the factors involved. Okay, let's take a quick look at the diet of the ancient Egyptians. Is there something that it shared with our diet? The ones who ended up as mummies, the majority of the bodies in the study, let's take a look at that because they were the majority of the study. It's always been assumed that common people eat a very clean, healthy diet, and royalty tended to eat a little more like we do, indulging in meats and fats and special treats. They ate a richer diet. And it's true that most of the mummies are of royalty, so in theory that might explain that. Surprise. Egypt was primarily an agricultural society. Their diet was based on cereal grains. Royalty ate mostly cereal grains. The most common foods in ancient Egypt were bread and beer, supplemented by various vegetables, not like what we think of vegetables, sort of more adornment vegetables, onions, garlic, leeks, and lettuce. Beans, chickpeas, lentils, green peas, not in huge amounts, but they also ate them. Primary diet was breads and beer. Animals were domesticated, which means they also consumed eggs and dairy. Fish from the Nile were common in the diet. But mostly freshwater fish, not ocean fish, which means the freshwater fish weren't high in omega-3s. And more importantly, the common method of preparation was salting and drying. Meat, on the other hand, was only rarely consumed by commoners. It was definitely more common among meals of the elite, but even then, royalty ate a diet dominated by grains. So, again, Egyptians are eating a diet that is conducive. You don't have to be genetically predisposed. Their diet is highly conducive to it. And finally, we mentioned earlier the salted fish. If every fish you're eating is highly salted, we know that overconsumption of salt can be problematic. So the bottom line is the ancient Egyptian diet, although not modern, was likely not very healthy in terms of heart disease. Now, we go to the Peru and Southwest. They were agricultural societies. Corn was actually the primary foodstuff of these peoples. Like the Egyptians, both of these cultures largely ate cereal-based diets, and like the Egyptians, They used domesticated animals, meaning dairy products and eggs were likely part of their diets. It had very little explanation for what causes heart disease. And we know studies have shown that if you moderate your lifestyle, you significantly cut your risk of heart disease. We know that. There's a study that just came out, I talk about it, that shows that people on a Mediterranean diet actually have a significant drop in the incidence of heart disease and heart attacks. So changing your diet does matter. Changing your lifestyle does matter. Also, and I suggest you go to the site, and most people have a misunderstanding of what the Mediterranean diet is. Mediterranean diet is actually not the diet of any one country. It's actually inspired. It's a term to use diets that are inspired by traditional dietary patterns of people who live in southern Italy, Greece, and Spain. And it very quickly, what it involves is a high consumption of vegetables, a moderate to high consumption of wild-caught fish, a moderate consumption of organic free-range chicken or turkey, moderate consumption of nuts, moderate consumption of fruit, moderate consumption of oils and fats, with an emphasis on olive oil, but I would also recommend, if you're having oils, walnut oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, organic butter from grass-fed cows, and supplementing with krill, oil, squid oil, fish oil, or flax, lignans. And then you go down to the low consumptions. It's a low to moderate consumption of organic meat. Meat is not a large component of the Mediterranean diet. A low consumption of dairy products. I recommend organic and raw, and mostly in the form of yogurt and cheese, if desired, not drinking numbers of glasses of milk. Low consumption of legumes, low consumption of unrefined organic grain products, and extremely low or no consumption of high glycemic grains and starches and isolated sugars. That's the Mediterranean diet as it should be eaten. If you do that, you can change your outcomes.